Thanks a lot for staying with us on TVC Breakfast. Let's talk about the latest happenings now in Rivers State. Governor Siminalayi Fubara says his administration inherited a huge debt burden from his predecessor, Nyesom Wike, who is now Minister of the FCT. Well, the former governor, who embarked on many projects, including the construction of 12 flyovers, is said to have incurred a huge sum of debt for the state. And presently, Governor Fubara swore in Dagogo Iburama as the new Attorney General and the Commissioner of Justice, this in the wake of a wave of resignations by key members of his cabinet. And so the governor disclosed plans to set up a judicial panel of inquiry to investigate how the affairs of governance were conducted in the state before he assumed office. And joining us now to discuss this, we have the chairman of Ikwere Local Government Area of Rivers State, Samuel Wike. We also have joining us via Zoom the managing editor, Avalon Daily, Ayodele Adiu. Gentlemen, welcome to TVC Breakfast this Thursday. We will be starting off with Mr. Wike, who is the chairman of Ikwere Local Government Area. Thank you again for joining us, Mr. Wike. So what are your thoughts on this said huge debt burden, which was supposedly left by the former governor, Nyesom Wike?
First of all, thank you very much for this opportunity of joining you this morning. As far as we are concerned, we can see clearly that our governor is acting out of desperation and out of the worries of the breaches he has committed to the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, which he swore an oath to protect and uphold. And that is what is throwing up all this issue. And like he said in his language, he said that the jungle to him is matured. So we should expect all manner of actions that are not consistent with the Constitution of Nigeria. Well, to us, we can see clearly that the governor is now raising an issue that the entire world is shocked. That a man who worked in a system, the chief accounting officer of such a system, is the one now coming to tell Nigerians what he did not tell us when he took over office, and when he has spent close to 1 year in office, he's now waking up to say, oh, there are debts that was left for me as a governor. As far as we are concerned as Nigerians and Rivers people, governance all over the world is involved in financial transactions for the good of their people. For us, we are waiting for the panel he wants to set up, and we believe that everything will be done in accordance with the laws of our country. And he has his right as the executive governor of the state to do whatever he wants to do, but he also is aware that the Constitution is the grand norm for every action that he's going to take. What we are questioning as Rivers people here is clear, that look, you are the governor of the state. You swore an oath to protect the Constitution of Nigeria and to do to all men, all manner of men, good, irrespective of their tribe, ethnicity, or who they are. And now, you cannot govern Rivers State outside the Constitution of Nigeria. No, you can't. And so we are saying clearly, as a local government chairman, that the governor of Rivers State has no right to bypass me as an elected chairman of Ikwere local government, whose tenure is still running, and go ahead and pay council workers of my council, you understand me, telling his accountant general to issue an instruction to banks to disregard my office as the chairman of Ikwere local government and go ahead and pay council workers without calling of Jack. And so when you breach such constitution, we must call it out and say, look, this is not what the law expects you to do. I am happy that entire Nigerians are listening, and legal minds are also listening. Nigeria Bar Association is listening, and all other relevant authorities who are protectors of democracy and who believe in democracy are also listening, that the governor we elected has breached the constitution of Nigeria and has gone ahead to pay council workers of Ikwerre local government without the approval of Ikwerre local government council chairman and without calling for a JAC meeting as represented or as stated by the constitution of our country called Nigeria. So we are also saying that the governor also cannot wake up and say he will have his own assembly. No, he doesn't have that right or power. The democracy we run in Nigeria is a three-tier democracy and three-arm democracy. Every tier is independent as stated in the constitution. Every arm is also independent as stated in the constitution. So the governor cannot wake up and say, I allow the assembly to sit because I allow them. No, the River State Assembly is not the making of the governor. It's a provision of the constitution of Nigeria. All the governor has authority over is to make proclamation, which he has done in June after he took over office. And after his proclamation, Right Honorable Martin Samewule immersed the Speaker of the River State House of Assembly. And every House of Assembly has its issues. And so we are saying that, Mr. Governor, you have no right to say you are going to set up an executive order to ask the assembly to come and sit in government house. No, it's not possible. Disregarding court orders and court ruling as given by a court of competent jurisdiction by Justice Omotosho and Okorowo, both in December 2023 and in January 2024. These are all orders and judgments that have not been vacated by any known court of appeal. But what did we see the governor do? He and his cohorts comes behind the back door, goes to the state high court to get an interim injunction to start an illegality to say that two-member assembly is the assembly that he will accept as a governor. We are saying, defenders of democracy, those who know that democracy is the best form of governance, are in Nigeria. We're expecting that Nigerian Bar Association would have released a statement by now, and that the chief law officers of this country would have said there's a breach of our constitution. Mr. Governor, you can't be governor of River State without following the constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
To what end is all this crisis? Because there's this saying that when two elephants fight, the grass suffers. The Rivers people will be the sufferers in all of this. When will all of this crisis end? So we can see development across River State.
Lost.
Mr. Wike, if you can hear me, is there an end in sight in all of this crisis? When two elephants fight, the grass suffers. That's a proverb there, an old saying. When will all of these crises end so that developments can be seen in River State?
Okay, this crisis will end if a man who believes in the rule of law, who believes in the constitution, goes ahead to govern his people as the books, the grand norm, which is the constitution, provides for. It is clear. It has nothing to do with any personal crisis between Mr. A or Mr. B. Mr. President, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, our president, is governing Nigeria based on the constitution of Nigeria. He's making sure he's following the steps as provided by the constitution. He's not interfering in state affairs. He's not stopping payment of workers in the state level and bypassing the approvals of governors of state because the governors are not in good terms with him or they don't belong to the same political party with him. No, this crisis will end if those who have been constitution as amended.
All right. Mr. Wike, we thank you for the points you have made so far, but let's put you on hold and hear from your co-contributor at this time. Ayodele Adio is also joining us virtually. Thank you for hanging on, Ayodele Adio. So what are your thoughts on this? I'm sure your medium has covered a plethora of reports emanating from the crisis, the lingering crisis in River State, especially where, as Theo said, governance is concerned. What do you think? What's your take so far?
I think that Theo answered or asked a very pertinent question when he asked all of these shenanigans happening in Rivers State to what end? And how does this benefit the average man or woman in the streets in Port Harcourt today as we speak? And the answer is an equivocal no. It doesn't benefit anybody. It's needless at best. And it is just about servicing the egos of politicians who are bruised or politicians who either feel left behind or feel offended. And I think it's important that we wake up from this and move on from all of these pettiness on all sides and get to the business of delivering the dividends of democracy for the people of Rivers State, because that's what they voted for and that is what they deserve. And let me say that it's important to note when this conversation is being had that all sides, and I repeat, all sides have erred when it comes to the rule of law. I listened to the Query Local Government Chairman, who rightfully have argued that the governor has no right to withhold funds that are supposed to be accrued to local governments. That's a bit of an executive overreach and should not happen in any democratic society. The funds that are meant for local government should directly reach those local governments, even though it comes in a joint state account. But those local government chairmen have authority as to how those funds are going to be disbursed. However, in the same vein, one of the issues that is being lingered in Rivers State is the 27 lawmakers who defected to the APC. Also, by the rule of law, the moment those lawmakers defected from the PDP, I think, to the APC, their seats should have been immediately vacated because there is constitutional precedence and a Supreme Court ruling that establishes that once you switch political parties, once elected on the platform on another party, and there is no fraction in your political party, you vacate your seats immediately. And that decision of the Court of Appeal went on to describe or define what it means to have a fraction in a political party. And it defined the political party as a corporate entity that had to be fractioned at the center. And that means that that political party would have two chairmen, would have several board of trustees that will all be operating on the same name, name of the political party. And that amounts to division of that political party. And in this instance, that is not the case in the PDP. So really and truly, the lawmakers that defected, really and truly, should have vacated their seats. So really and truly, on all sides, there's so much illegality going on in Rivers State that really and truly benefits nobody. And if you asked me, I think that there should be adults in the room to hold very difficult conversations and resolve whatever the problems is, because the problem here is political. And politicians should find a way of resolving their problems without it disturbing the everyday business of governance.
But the president intervened at one point.
Yes, the president was magnanimous, in my opinion, to have intervened in the first instance because he averted what could have been a breakdown of law and order in Rivers State, right?
Yeah.
And it appears that the gentleman agreement that they had with the president has completely broken down. Now, ultimately, for me, right, like I said before, all sides are right and all sides are wrong because all sides have veered when it comes to the rule of law and all sides seem to have an argument to make. But ultimately, for me, there has to be a solution to this problem so that we do not have another repeat of the 1964 political crisis that led to a series of riots, vandalism, and criminality that pervaded the entire Southwest because there was rivalry in a political party. So we must avoid that situation in Rivers State, especially at a time in our country when we are struggling to raise oil production. Do we want a situation where there's going to be another sabotage in the production of oil from Rivers State and the country essentially goes broke? So we can't afford all of these things given the peculiar situation we're facing as a country. And I believe that adults should be in the room to resolve whatever political problems it is and let us move forward as a country and as a people.
All right, Mrs. Adio and Wanosike will be taking a break right now and return to continue our discussion. Please stay with us. Thank you very much for staying with us. We've been looking at the latest happenings in Rivers State. Many observers are worried, and over the past couple of minutes, we've been speaking with the chairman of Ikwere local government area of Rivers State, that's Samuel Wanosike. We've also been speaking with the managing editor of Avalon Times, Ayodele Adio. Thank you again to you both for joining us at this time. Let's go back to your earlier point now, Mr. Wanosike, on the withholding of funds meant for local governments. This is also another worrying report that has been circulating and, generating a lot of reaction. So you, in your capacity as, a local government chairman, what happens now?
No, before I answer that, I want to put a record straight over what my colleague just said a while ago. We're in a democracy, and like I said, we have three arms of government: the executive, the legislative, and the judiciary. Now, if an action happens in life and you want a pronouncement, you must take steps. For instance, if a man commits murder before declaring public, he still does not award a right to the man standing by the person to take the life of that man publicly. It will be termed jungle justice. All you need to do is to approach a court of competent jurisdiction and say, this man has taken the life of Mr. A, and what is the law saying over a man that takes the life of another person? So that a man defected by your own understanding, quote and unquote, does not automatically actions that he sees will be declared vacant. No, there must be a pronouncement from a court of competent jurisdiction. Section 109 and all its entangling subsections must come together before a court of competent jurisdiction, and the judiciary must make a firm pronouncement on it. I am also happy that in his analysis, he cited that Court of Appeal gave a ruling, Supreme Court gave a ruling. So when those people defected, people now went to court to action those acts and said, give judicial interpretation to it. In the case of Rivers State, people sit down in the comforts of their home, sit down in their palace, and are saying that the seats of 27 elected assembly members who were elected by their constituents are now declared vacant just because they said so. This is not the law we know in Nigeria. It can't stand. It is not the law. Now, until a court of competent jurisdiction makes a pronouncement, that's your way. For now, in this case, two courts, Federal High Court, as enshrined in the Constitution 272, that says clearly that a Federal High Court has the jurisdiction to talk about matters pertaining House of Assembly, Deputy Governor and Governor over their tenure or declaration of their seats vacant. It is there in our Constitution. Now, the question is clear. If a court has given an order saying that don't interfere with the actions of these assembly members, that their seats has not been declared vacant, Governor, allow them do their job. Because you have destroyed their hollow chamber where they should sit, based on your own quote and unquote integrity test of their building, they have the right to choose wherever they will sit to make the laws for Rivers people. And even you, the same governor, when you said you were obeying the 8-point agenda in the peace meeting made by Mr. President and all parties, you wrote to this same assembly and recognized them that they should swear in, they should screen commissioners and swear and bring for you for swearing in, which they did, and you swore those commissioners in. So you gave legitimacy to the same assembly. You now wake up on your own as an executive to want to masculate the legislative, to bring them into the executive arm. That is not the democracy that we are practicing in Nigeria. And no matter the statement, no matter how highly placed, whoever makes that statement will not change the constitution of Nigeria. The constitution of Nigeria is clear that based on the court ruling in December and in January by Justice Okoroworo and Justice Omotosho, cases that are clear and the governor is aware, it's only the Court of Appeal that can overturn those decisions of court. And the state high court cannot act as a court of appeal in this matter. So I had to put this perspective because so that my colleague who is on the other side will know that we are not just talking a beer parlor talk here. We are running a democracy based on the constitution of Nigeria. And that constitution is constant.
We are running out of time. Yes, you've also spoken to the fact that these matters are in court, and so let us wait for the final, verdict, from the court, as both parties have already gone to court to, question the legality or otherwise of the resignations or the defections, so to speak. But then to the other issue, which is also of grave concern, because these local governments are recognized under the same constitution that you have, robustly relied upon in your contribution so far. I asked, what happens now, since you've also spoken about the fact that crucial funds that LGs are entitled to have been withheld by the governor?
As we speak, right now, Ikwere local government is in crisis. The environment is a mess. Security agents cannot be supported. Insecurity has blown out of proportion. This is a local government that is a gateway to people coming in and leaving River State. Ikwere local government is housing the Nigerian airport, Port Harcourt International Airport, or called Obafemi Awolowo International Airport. As we speak, the entire system is on shutdown. These councillors have not received their pay. All political appointees have not been paid. Even me and my vice chairman have not been paid. We can't function. The governor is the one that is the governor of River State and also the chairman of Ikwere local government as we speak. Because he has paid the funds of Ikwere local government without carrying a jack. Not even only not carrying a jack, he came and wrote a letter bypassing my authority as the chief accounting officer of the local government, which no governor can imagine, because we have evidence to that. Because if his accountant general has issued instruction to banks, said you must bypass the local government chairman and go ahead and pay civil servants of Ikwere local government. Now, what now happens to us as elected local government chairman? The governor has interfered in our tenure. He has interfered in our running day-to-day activities of the local government because he is now the governor and the local government chairman.
All right, I really had you. Let's have your own thoughts on all of these issues, of course, especially with what Honorable has said here. Mr. Wanusike has mentioned on all of these issues. What are your own thoughts right now?
I think it's important to state that I do not necessarily disagree with many of the things that Mr. Wanusike has highlighted. Like I stated earlier, the governor has no right to interfere with the runnings of the local governments. That is an established fact by law. And so the governor has no right to withhold the resources that are accrued to the local government. And I agree with him to that extent. I also agree that there has to be certain level of judicial pronouncements before the 27 people vacate their seats. But really and truly, you and I know that the threshold that amounts to lawmakers defecting or vacating their seats after a defection have actually been met by these lawmakers, except we want to pretend otherwise. And there's no other pronouncement as long as the threshold has been met by these lawmakers. But my argument, really and truly, is not necessarily about the political bickering in Rivers State, as it is about the governance of the millions of Rivers State indigents who seem to be caught in between, the battle of the Goliaths, if you'd like. And for me, I believe that, people like Mr. Wanusike, who's been at the local government for 8 years, and has been in the political class for as long as possible, should find ways of resolving this issue in the larger interest of the people of Rivers State. There are so many things that we cannot see on national TV, but we know what we know. We know what the issues are. We know what the problems are. And so these issues can be resolved in a manner which we do not have to descend into a state of anarchy in Rivers State. I do not want to see a situation where trouble breaks out, where there is violence, where people are hurt. It is completely needless. And that's why I'm pleading with the political elite in Rivers State to find an amicable solution to these political crises in a way that allow governance to go undeterred in the state. And perhaps at the end of the day, given the current realities that we face, food inflation is 40%, headline inflation is 33.6%, unemployment and poverty is going up. There are bigger issues to deal with. There are bigger elephants in the room that we should be dealing with as a government at all levels. And these should be the priorities of elected officials in Rivers State. And I plead with them to find an amicable solution so that the people do not suffer. And on a lighter note, I saw Mr. Wike. I didn't know he had unbelievable dancing skills in a video I saw 2 days ago. And so in that magnanimity, I hope that in that joy that he demonstrated that day, he finds a solution for the people that he governed in the local government and really for the peace and well-being of the entire Rivers State.
All right, gentlemen, we're afraid we've run out of time. Samuel Wanosike, chairman of Ikwere local government area, as well as Ayodele Adio of Avalon Times. Many thanks for your contributions on the program.